I'm Captain Lucy Webster. I was born in Coventry and I'm 28 years old. I'm currently based in Northern Ireland in a TA centre in Belfast. I work as the adjutant at 40 Ulster Signal Regiment. As unit adjutant, I'm in charge of the career management for officers and soldiers, basically the general administration of the unit. I advise the commanding officer on all disciplinary issues, and I'm his eyes and ears out on the ground, and will advise him what's going on, what he needs to know, and I suggest what action he may take. The Army expect a certain level of fitness, and as an officer you're expected to be able to lead from the front. We do have mandatory PT sessions during the week. For example, on a Tuesday morning we have PT from 8:30 till 9:30. We generally go out for a run or we do circuit training. It's a good chance to, again, bond with people that you work with, because often you're confined to your office during the week, so you don't get to see people. It's also a good chance to train, improve your strength. So straight after PT on a Tuesday, we normally convene for a diary check in the boardroom. So I'll move back to Llaneva Park, which is the TA centre where I'm based, and we'll all get changed into our Combat 95, so our green uniform. We then meet in the boardroom and sit down and have a 45-minute conference. In my job, I attend lots of meetings, and in my role as adjutant, I often have to chair them and write minutes for them. The conference on a Tuesday is more of a diary check, just to confirm what we've all got going on for the next month. So I'll print off the forecast of events and the diary, and it's my job to read it out and input extra events as and when they happen. After we've done that, we go around the table, and anyone with any relevant points will bring them up. A lot of the issues I raised at the conference I do know about beforehand. People do tend to approach you to get a result or let you know before they bring it up, because that's only polite really, so you can warn off the commanding officer. A lot of the issues I may take away to find answers for, or if it's work for someone else, I'll generate a loose minute and send that out so people know exactly what's expected of them after the event. My role as adjutant at the moment is very desk-bound. However, sometimes I do get to go out and instruct the soldiers. This is really rewarding actually, because the experience I've gained over the last 5 or 6 years is very good to be able to pass that on to the new generation of soldiers, and then in time they'll get as much knowledge as I've got now and be able to then pass it on to the new soldiers. So that's one of my favourite parts of the job. I also get to help develop a lot of the potential officers as well that are coming through, because obviously I've got that exact experience and I know what they will need to be able to do in order to pass all the tests. I instruct soldiers of all ages. We've got some soldiers as young as 17 that have come straight from school and are about to set off, go to college, get jobs, etc. The upper end of the age range could be 50, 55. People stay in the Territorial Army for a long time. We've got soldiers that have been in for about 30 years. The TA soldiers bring a massive skill set to the unit. We've got some of the officers are rocket scientists, we've got soldiers that are BT engineers, we've got barristers, and all these add a lot to the unit. And then when we're out doing UK operations, they can add lots to the party. So while you might look at someone and think he's only, he's a private soldier, he's a signaller, actually that signaller's a bank manager during the week, and in his TA time, he's a signaller, he doesn't want to make decisions, so he can add a lot to the party. Being in the TA, I do work weekends with them, and very often this is going out on exercise to one of the local training areas. If it's a comms exercise, my role is often as a visiting officer, so any important people that come, I will write the programme and host them throughout the visit and make sure it runs smoothly. On exercise, you do find your Bergen, which is the rucksack you carry, is actually quite heavy. So first of all, you've got your sleeping bag. We get Army issue green sleeping bags, but it's no different to what anyone would use at home. On the outside of your sleeping bag, you have a bivvy bag. This is basically a waterproof outside liner. So you could sleep outside just with your sleeping bag inside the bivvy bag, and even if it did rain, you'd stay dry. You'd also have in your bag, you'd have a change of clothes. This again would be your combats. You would have some socks, some underwear, a wash kit, but you wouldn't have a pink fluffy towel. You'd have probably a cut down small towel that you could just dry your face with. Your wash kit, you want to make as small as possible because you've got to carry it. So you often find people will cut toothbrushes in half, so just to lighten the weight. As an officer, you've got an incredibly important role, especially on operations or exercise. You often have to lead your soldiers to a certain location, and you need to make sure that you're going to get to that location by the fastest means possible, and you're not going to get lost on the way. So to be able to map read and navigate is vitally important. Otherwise, your guys would lose confidence in you immediately. One of the jobs I've had, I was a second in command of one of the training squadrons at the Army Training Regiment Lichfield. The Army Training Regiment Lichfield train Royal Signal and Royal Engineer soldiers, and they basically take them through their 12 weeks of basic training. As a second in command, my job was very desk-bound, so I decided I wanted to get out and meet quite a few of the soldiers, and what better than to go to PT. So I looked on the programme, and one of the troops had sort of battle PT, which was with their Bergen, so with the rucksack on the back, they had to have a certain amount of weight. And they were going out and doing maybe 4 or 5 miles, which included going to the quarry and running up and down the hills. So I phoned up the troop commander and said, I'm going to come and join you. Can you just tell me what weight you're carrying? So I think he said, it's 20. I said, is that 20 kilos or 20 pounds? And he said, I don't know, 20 kilos. So I put 20 kilos in my Bergen, thinking this is quite heavy for a recruit, and it was an all-male platoon. So I turned up at the time, and we had the weigh-in, and actually I found it was... I didn't actually weigh my bag, but all the recruits got weighed. We set off on the tab, and I was finding it really hard. I could keep up, but everyone seemed to be skipping along, and I was sort of having to run to keep up with their walk. And it was only when we were going along, the troop commander came over very apologetic and said, "Lucy, I'm really sorry, but it was actually 20 pounds and not 20 kilos. So I had to do the whole session with 20 kilos on my back with these young, fit 18-year-old boys that could just run for miles. So I learnt my lesson there. When I initially wanted to join the army, I spoke to my school careers advisor. This was at the same time as I was applying for the Army Sixth Form College, and she took me aside and said, "Lucy, I've got this story to tell you. There was once this ballet dancer, and she was very, very, very good. However, she was short and fat, and so because she didn't look the part of a ballet dancer, she'd never ever make it, regardless of how good she was. You are," she looked at me and said, "You're small, you're blonde, you're petite. So no disrespect to what you may be able to achieve, you won't make it because you don't look the part." I wasn't a roughy-tufty, army butch sort of girl. So that just made me more. I just really, really wanted to prove her wrong. And so that was my motivation really for the next couple of years, to make it, to show that actually you don't have to be a stereotypical big, muscly girl to join the army. I'm 5'2", fairly, petite, and I don't struggle at all. So even if you don't think you're what the army want, let the army decide that for you. You can do so much more than what you think you can do.